My friends, the subject that we are discussing today is vast. It is possessed within many corridors. The advent of your modern civilization sciences are gradually pointing in certain directions of evolution. The fact that you may be able to someday soon, or perhaps through your own volition, extend the life of your cellular physical vehicles to encompass years that previously are unknown to most. That is, to elongate your physical lifespan is upon us. As Mr. Cooper so brilliantly stated, this has been a drive for many a human creature to extend the duration of their physical lifespan so that they may get to see more history and receive the education that would be lost to them if their lifespan were only the 70 years, and some such chicanery. Physical lifespan, to some extent, is predetermined, obviously, by what is known as genetics. Yet, even these genetics are only learned patterns of cellular behavior. I have spent many years unconditioning the mind and neurological apparatus of my psychic so that I could bring forth loaded information. Information loaded with food for thought and contemplation, but also for transmutation of idea into action. Actions that produce viable, verifiable, and concrete results upon your physical bodies, also, however, on your minds, and eventually affect the culture in which you live. For all change in culture must start with you, not you waiting for others to make a change. Now, give us a moment. In youth, you develop a bond to your body with several self-images attached to this emotional bonding. One or more of these concepts you will fuse with into adult life. Gradually, the decades, or in many cases rapidly, the decades pass and you modify these self-images. These self-images affect cell and tissue function. Your scientists can scarcely watch the changes that your cells experience while they are still within the framework of the body. They instead take out cells and analyze them in a petri dish or some other such invasive maneuver. The truth is that your physical formations, your cellular organizations, are responsive to thought. Your thoughts determine and affect cell function, the cellular renewal process, and of course the way that your physical bodies absorb, distribute, and utilize nutrients in the physical diet. Physical diet and the study of physical diet is one means of achieving an elongation in lifespan, eliminating simple habits from your life, such as unnecessary copious amounts of smoking, the consummation of carcinogens, and overexposure, I said overexposure to sunlight, and some such variables will affect lifespan to a great extent. We are going to talk about, we will term the fourth variable. The fourth variable is the effect that the mind has on physical longevity. As you march through your lives from birth until, say, death, or any particular phase of your physical and sociological evolution, you learn certain opinions about your body. These opinions are focusing lenses that stand between you and your eternity. These opinions are frequently nearly conscious. They are just beneath the usual level of consciousness as you understand it. They are pre-conscious. These ideas, however, are vital and real, for they are living things. Thoughts are objects. They are programs that amplify or decrease certain cellular behaviors that affect physical lifespan. So your thought change, these chains are very influential on cell function. If you take a nutritional supplement and you hold it in the palm of your hand and visualize the effect that you want this supplement to have on your body, where you would like it to be concentrated from the bloodstream, if you practice this enough times so that it becomes a habit, then that area of the body will indeed receive a disproportionate amount of nutrition that can, for instance, accelerate its healing and self-repair processes. The ritual of blessing your physical food, blessing the air that you breathe, blessing all things would be most ideal, is very beneficial to physical longevity. Those who develop the necessary psychological, psychiatric, and spiritual abilities to make use of usually subconscious processes will benefit most profoundly from the information that is being delivered at this time through my psychic Shimoke, my pet name for my psychic. You must build up in your consciousness competitive concepts that are of equal weight, or perhaps a stronger weight, than the concepts you already have within the mind and neurological system regarding physical aging. It is not something that you have to do, but because you may not thoroughly understand the psychomechanics involved in physiological response and cellular repair, you do not yet, possibly, most of my viewers here know how to beneficially affect cell function, renewal, and to elongate cellular lifespan. Give us a moment. It is very important then that when you consume food, that you limit the amount of time that you eat while driving, for instance. For the thoughts that you are projecting and resonating within the thought body that the physical body is always suspended in, builds up clouds of information around it, and your dominant emotional state and the permutation of the mixture of emotional states in and around and permeating the physical vehicle of which you are composed will affect the utilization of nutrition and its conversion into energy and cell activity. I have told many of my psychics, friends and clients worldwide to affirm when they eat any substance what form of result they would like the inner consciousness to produce in the physical body. You must above all understand and come to believe voluntarily and embrace the concept completely and not partially that it is possible to elongate your span of time in the physical tissue form. As I have mentioned previously, genetics does play a role, but genetics is only another program. Spiritual development is where you deprogram the programs and you put in the programs what you wish to be in the programs. You become better at this with practice. Many will wait until they are in a life-threatening situation before they begin such a process. This is unfortunate, but it is the usual way. They wait until the diagnosis of heart disease, a kidney failure, stroke, cancer, muscular dystrophy, a host of different ailments, many non-diagnosable by your stereotype diagnostic techniques. Your physicians who do their best only bring with them the knowledge that is inculturated into them. They do not understand that your body has not only the capacity to create cancer, but to remove it. Frequently, personal psychodynamics are worked out through the illness process that allows new levels of achievement to take place in the personal life. The unloading of a psychic garbage, for instance. Emotional garbage that would hold you back. Limiting concepts and ideas are most frequently worked out through all forms of illness, from cancer to spontaneous abortion. There is not an event that takes place biologically that is not influenced by your primal psychology, but also your holistic psychology, what we call the well-integrated psychology that all human beings should be working toward in their development. Only a holistic understanding of the complete picture or a growing toward that goal can produce the results that are being discussed in this particular communication. There are necessary prerequisites then of understanding that must be in existence and constantly reinforced to achieve the results that will be prescribed for you as obtainable within your world. As an entity within your world, you receive so much negative conditioning and such a strict over bombardment of negative messages about physical health and emotional health and financial health that it is no wonder that you frequently feel overwhelmed. Frequently that your actions will not result in the desired effect. In this communication, it becomes very important for you to understand the following without question. It will take several steps and processes for you to get to the level of attainment in consciousness, for you to produce the ultimate result in physical longevity, in physical resilience, the ability to resist disease, or to expedite recovery, complete recovery from disease. It is possible for you to regrow a severed hand when you learn how. If you are not taught how by your culture, it is not in your family's genetic code to have this ability, so you will not. A lizard that loses its tail can regrow its tail because it is the genetic habit. It has been transferred from its parental offspring. This becomes unconscious knowledge. This distraction is meant to allow you to eventually learn to access subconscious ability, structure it through conscious intent to provide a tangible, concrete result. Many times, medications that your physicians will give you in the treatment of a physical illness, if they are fuzzy, your physicians, or they do not like you, will affect the function of those medications in your body. Many of you do not have the luxury of choosing a high-quality physician that is also spiritually evolving and aware. This is rather unfortunate because if you do not have the necessary psychiatric strength to resist their own subliminal suggestions to your body, when you are already in a vulnerable condition, you will absorb the results. There are many different ways to handle this. One is to assert, to affirm, and to understand that a higher force of consciousness is being invoked into the picture to affect the behavior and the subliminated attitudes of your physicians. Underestimated entirely is the power of suggestion in the healing process. I cannot overemphasize this reality for you. If your physician, no matter how skilled, is a personality that is incompatible with yours, this will affect healing. Regardless of what your medical establishment would love you to believe to validate their method of operation, as a whole, this is the truth. If you have a physician that you are not able to resonate with, the full therapeutic effect of their medical training will not be able to be achieved. If you subconsciously project upon your physicians all sorts of negative fears, then these fears will increase your vulnerability also to their own negative programming. So what we are discussing here is programs and human expectations and human fears, those faced and unfaced. Because you are a holistic construction and a psychological pattern, you cannot only handle one area of life without it affecting another area. So it is very important to develop a very clear conceptualization of the way that the mind influences body functions through self-image. For this is the usual way that this is done. And this is done all day long and all night long in your waking but also in your sleeping hours. You must get in touch with any negative opinions or any negative interpretation that you have about any body function. For if you do not, eventually it will result in some form of physical manifestation of illness or impaired function. We must also be very careful not to offend the very primitive human medical establishment, for their military tactics are quite well known to some of us. That you have a right to believe what you want to believe, and that just because you believe differently does not mean that you are defunct, irrespectable, or not worth listening to. I have found in my communications with the human mammal creatures that just venting a pent-up emotion frequently will improve the function of the immune system. Any well-versed and holistically oriented physician would probably tell you the very same thing. But I am not looking for support. I have been watching your human beings for much longer than I care to mention. Time is irrelevant anyway. I know how the politics work. You have to be able to get out of the politics if you want to produce any results. A very important issue related to politics, but also eternity. For it is important you understand the connection between social politics and eternity. Human beings do not believe that they are designed to last forever. They have vague ideas about what the word eternity means on a personal connotative level. These vague ideas are about as potent as they are vague. You must develop a very distinct, descriptive, and clear-cut idea of what the word longevity means to you. If you are 14 years old and watching this video, you will have a completely different picture of what longevity lives as opposed to your great-grandmother who is 104, provided she is fully functioning upstairs. However, this is a bit unusual given your cultural tradition genetically. What we are dealing with then is personal value systems that become converted into genetic codes. You then must break through the barrier of genetic code to affect physical longevity. It is not only a matter of eliminating habits that might, say, statistically reduce your potential to manifest a maximum lifespan in the physical world. It is a matter of deprogramming certain cellular behaviors. For instance, your physical heart tissue has the ability to survive on 10% of the normally required oxygen without dying. It does not believe these, however. And because it does not believe this, it will not. So you must understand the death programs inherited from your parents and your ancestors regarding cellular activity and function. Your skin has the ability to resist cross-linking from overexposure to sun without being damaged. But because it does not know it has this ability, it usually will not. So hence, as you become older decade by decade, the results will begin to show. So we are talking here of powerful genetic programs that affect cell and tissue ability to rejuvenate and to perfectly genetically replicate themselves so that the atomic and the magnetic formation of cell structure remains perfect, is virtually identical. They never are identical. But there are certain degrees here of permutation, transmutation, and mutation that take effect regularly that can be justly reduced. One, of course, is what has finally become popular after the last 40 years of many of your physicians screaming about the value of nutrients in your diet, the use of antioxidants to protect cells and tissue. However, it is not only the taking of these supplements or the eating of foods and increasing them in your diet that produces the effect. It is the intent to produce the effect that produces the result that you are looking for. You can also produce a similar result eating a fatty plate of spaghetti with cheese and cottage cheese and grease and tomatoes. It is the intent as well as the chemical structure of the food that produces the result. Hence, if you are one of those eaters who eats just to fill time, and you do not bless the food appropriately, you are missing a very vital practice that can produce quite a difference in healing and recovering from physical injury, from psychological stress and spiritual trauma, and also would then affect your vitality and your longevity. So the development of very strong and firm knowings about your ability to recuperate. If you are asking questions such as, am I doing this right? You are not doing it right. It is not a matter of following a specific technique, but to understand the logistics behind and involving the construction, application, and mechanics of any particular technique to expand your physical life. The general intent to make it to a certain age is one long-range goal that, if thought for many years, will literally program the cells in a beneficent fashion to exist in their generations of multiplications until you reach that age. If you tell yourself and consistently visualize yourself existing till the age of 175, and you do this right, you will live unto the physical age of 175. But watching you humans all the time, you have little control over your thoughts. This is why it is so important to learn how to cultivate your ability to concentrate under stress in particular. For most of my viewers will be of the Western world, where you have no right to freedom of thought. Not really. I know there are many of you that would say that is a controversial statement. You are allowed to express your thoughts within very limited comfort zones, and if you go beyond this, then much trouble results, both in your personal relationships, but in other ways as well, more organized social crime. But this is not a discussion of organized social crime, though most of your society is a crime from a spiritual perspective. The loss is fantastic in terms of education, in terms of psychological development, and in terms of spiritual application. So let's get off of our booties and do something with the knowledge that is being supplied. You start by deciding how long you are going to live physically. Then you investigate all of the available knowledge in your world's computer systems, books, periodicals, and lectures. And you take what you need from all of these categories. Then you build a personal life extension routine. You must make this an important piece of your life, not a passing interest, for passing interests do not get you anywhere in spiritual or psychiatric development if you wish to get beyond the common human being, which is not really worthy to pursue. Many should not produce offspring. We will not get into this, however, for it is a debate that you humans have your confused emotions about, and we are beyond such things. We have work to do. So, you decide how long you want to physically exist. You then do everything within your power to get there, simply by meditating for 10 minutes once a day, or 365 meditations a year, and clearly seeing yourself being perfectly healthy, strong, youthful in appearance, and having the vigor of a 20 years old, and it being your 126th birthday. No matter how unbelievable to the conscious mind, the suggestion will eventually be decoded and accepted by the cells of the body. And logic has nothing to do with longevity in the long run. It has its place in a very limited sphere. Your self-image and your concepts about longevity have a much greater impact frequently than diet and hygiene. These are important. I cannot underestimate the importance of diet and hygiene. However, they are overrated when it is stated that you need not work on your spiritual, psychiatric, and emotional development to get to a ripe old age and to be happy. Though the goal here is not just to be happy, that is very shallow. The goal here is to evolve to a higher level, and also to just be in the process of where you need to be at the time while directing the process. and not always letting some of the fractured information, psychological imprints within your subconscious control your emotional and physiological behavior. You must get these things under control, otherwise they will fulfill their function, which is simply to fulfill their programming. That programming may not have your long-term survival in mind. Now, you can read as many books as you want, buy as many tapes as you want, and if you are not serious about this, the result will be nil. Perhaps you will add a decade to your life. To some of you, this is impressive. Why stop at a decade? Why live to 85? A big deal. I have known people in your physical world up to 190 years old when they leave the physical body behind. Of course, these entities existed during a time before you measured years, the way that you do now. Your physical body turns all of the information in your social world into symbols, and these are coded into genes. This is passed down generation to generation and builds up an entire network of value systems. As human creatures, you are so immersed in so many value systems, it is no wonder you and everyone else you know are confused. You could have no choice. But you have to get beyond the bull crap, beyond the negative conditioning, beyond the opinions of a few highly educated and very political power elite in your medical orthodoxy if you wish to live a long period of time. You must take back the power from your medical professionals, and you must then use that in a constructive fashion. You must decide how you will heal, how long illness will last. I am not saying that you must try to medically treat it. Let them have their specialties. What I am saying is it is the attitude that you approach all of these with that will have a profound effect on the end result. Now, I suggest a short break, at which point we will return. Let me clearly, however, state it is your opinions and your long-term, honest-to-God, non-contested beliefs that will determine how long you will live. You must weed out the opposing value systems in your own deeper levels of consciousness if you wish to truly achieve a very advanced age. One way to do this is to attempt to eliminate anxiety and suffering from your life. This is difficult because as human creatures you are all addicted to as much suffering as possible. Now, when I say suffering, eliminate suffering, I did not say eliminate responsibility for ecology or responsibility to those whom you love. That is not it. Simply to disengage the emotional aspects that causes anxiety associated with these socially approved and valued connotations, for that is all they are. Now, I will return shortly. We must give our poor young psychic a break. Too often, much too often, most human mortals busy themselves dealing with opinions about reality than with reality itself, but rarely is a connection made to the fact that the reality you all experience is a result of mass hallucinated opinions. So you have this all-pervasive, let us call it primal racial mind all around you, and there are programs within this primal mind. This objective mind is in very deep levels of consciousness. It radiates on a very specific frequency band, radiesthesically. It can be contacted by those who develop highly evolved dowsing capabilities. Those who develop this sensitivity to these radiations can communicate with this deep mind. This deep mind, however, embraces all of you equally. However, your capacity to access this information is not equally distributed throughout the human populations. Those possessed of a severe passion to bring forth a latent concept into consciousness and into reality frequently become caught up within the flows of this dynamic energy and are propelled beyond their self-images into a dimension where there is essentially timelessness, for action and perception are one. It is in this dimension of consciousness that the deepest programs regarding cellular biology exist, and the effect of these substratums of consciousness and their programming is quite profound. For also the length of your physical lifespan is contained here. You cannot separate your psychology from your biology, for they are inseparable. Your anatomicists, your surgeons, and most of your medical practitioners are trained to believe that the body functions without regard to thought. A few, still a very few, take seriously the reality that your thoughts and emotional state have much to do with your hormonal system. And this, in turn, has a very powerful effect on the way that your body will mobilize its immune system and the translation of nutrient into biophysical fuel, but also psychological fuel. A few enlightened individuals possess levels of this information. No incarnate of your species, however, at this time, possesses all of this knowledge. The knowledge that does exist is fractured and distributed among various specialties and different professions on different continents. It then by no means is all contained in one place in your physical externalized world, but it is all contained within the internal levels of mind and the deity of the cumulative holistic self, that self which is called the God self. Your cells respond to concepts. Concepts have shape and form, vibration, color, and even fragrance. Concepts are instructions. They explain and qualify other concepts. The conceptual mind is constantly manufacturing self-suggestions. These self-suggestions are constantly swallowed and recombined according to other previously swallowed suggestions that have taken root within this deep mind. A good, an excellent, highly sensitive, talented, and truly objective psychoanalyst can assist one in analyzing the programs within one's own mind. It is not necessary to consult these professionals. However, to many, this is very beneficial to use another as a sounding board. You begin this exercise by writing down or to speaking onto a tape recorder all of the thoughts that you have regarding age, all of the ideas from the time you were young to the present regarding age, and your perceptions and personal feelings involving these concepts. These concepts have psychometric charges. These psychometric charges, meaning measurable charges in the physical spectrum, affect cell activity. Unresolved psychiatric issues profoundly affect cell and tissue function. Unresolved issues of any kind, however, have a genuine effect. Understanding the whole of your psychology as an individual is vital to objectively learning how to extrapolate negative suggestions regarding physical survival and longevity. Families that have histories of cancer, for instance, within the family, it is not only a genetic program on its own, but these genetic programs have mental components. You will find similar personality traits in all members of the family who develop cancers. This is even more true for those families who, say, develop uterine cancer, a specific cancer, or strain of cancers. in any particular area of the body. If your Aunt Matilda had uterine cancer and died of it, whether or not it was diagnosed, for your ability to diagnose is only very recent. It was frequently highly inaccurate and was just a social label to describe a just cause for death that was socially acceptable. You have to have your explanations. But in modern times, your diagnosis is a bit more accurate, though still extremely primitive. It is why you need individuals on the forefront of your medical disciplines who are far-out thinkers, who are willing to step beyond the confines of the comfort zones of the medical and psychiatric establishment in order to locate truths that are principles to apply to war. All institutions on the American continent and all continents are very conservative and redundant, down to techniques that do not embrace the creative. It is the creative areas of your mind, however, that can forge together new concepts that can counteract or eliminate concepts that would affect and limit your physical lifespan. So you begin this process by analyzing all of the thoughts and feelings that you can remember in your conscious mind regarding aging. Most humans do not know how they really feel about much. Only the immediate feelings active in the conscious brain and endocrine system are given any thought at all. But instead of discarding with feelings, as human beings grow older, they accumulate more and more concepts rather than disposing of concepts that worked only for a time. So what you get is a dark, cloudy stew that is bitter and not of pleasant flavor to one of very pure, clairvoyant capability. So you must work to dislodge and to destroy and re-stimulate the energy trapped within previously existent and currently existent concepts within your personality. Concepts that are bonded to by the instinctual mind are the most difficult to exterminate and eliminate. However, these words carry a strong emotional charge to them. Some opinion complexes must be, however, disengaged and disempowered, or they will remain within the instinctual consciousness as a program that will unerringly carry out its instructions. This is why it is vitally important you understand your emotional conditioning, your mental conditioning, and your physical conditioning all play an extremely vital, irreducible role in your physical longevity, but also in every area of your life. Therein, however, exists this, what has been termed by many a racial subconscious. There is, however, also simply a region of mind within the non-physical universe composed of a level of vibration that is not just the racial subconscious, but the racial superconscious. In effect, you must become more conscious to have greater control over your reality. You must learn to reorganize and change yourselves first if you wish to create social change. Otherwise, all such social change will always fall apart and collapse upon itself. For the forces that gave it birth are transitory, and like creates like in all dimensions. We are here highly oversimplifying some certain principles and mechanics of the planes of cause and effect in your world regarding physical longevity, but also in general social structure. For you cannot truly extrapolate an individual from the society that they co-create. So you must analyze and come to investigate the opinions, those latent, those retroactive, and those proactive, within your own psychology and your memory system, and release the emotional charge behind these concepts if you wish to truly unlimit biological functioning. Some cases of severe terminal illness spontaneously regress when the right trigger is pushed within the personality to release the choices that brought about the physical congestion or illness in the first place. So you must understand there are in existence what many of your scientists, those who are open-minded, and many who were persecuted, imprisoned, and murdered in your past for daring to think differently. Do not believe that you exist in a culture where this could not happen today. On the other hand, do not live in fear either, for fear usually brings about what is feared. So, you have subtle bodies that support the physical body, that outgrow from the physical body. They are offshoots of the physical body, and some of these structures existed before the formation of the physical matrix, the plan, so to speak, that the physical body is built upon. These subtle bodies are sensitive to thought, and since a thought affects these subtle bodies, in turn, these effects are transmuted and translated from one body to another until they are manifest in physical form. In this way, your thoughts that you thought some months ago are affecting your life today. You usually, however, will not remember specifically what you were thinking and feeling and responding to in your internal world some months ago. So this is why it is very vital to develop a ritual to handle the assimilation and the creation of new thought concepts that bridge the various gaps in your perception and in your personalities, and to intentionally create the instructions that you wish to be manifest in your life. What will produce health or illness in the body will also produce poverty or wealth in physical life, for it is all the same. The energies that cause these things in the human evolution are all one. They are inseparable. For convenience sake, although, however, we create a synthetic discrimination just for clarity purposes. But it is indeed clarity purposes only. It is very important that the mental bodies resonate with the emotional body, resonate with the physical body, or there will be a disharmonium between the bodies. This disharmonium will affect cell and tissue function. So, it begins in the mind by intentionally disrobing, uncloaking, and deactivating concepts from youth on about physical aging. Many and most of you watching this vehicle of my psychic Shimoke in trance have unresolved opinion complexes that still operate in your deeper levels of consciousness. The energetic components of these value systems, these concept constellations, produce ripples of energy that can counteract any effect to improve one's station in physical life. This is why it is very vital you uncover any contradictory opinions regarding yourself, your self-image, your relationship to society, to achieve extreme physiological longevity without what you know as disease. Your medical models only provide one example of a few of the minor energies, energetically, that are involved in what is called the aging process. They do not yet have the whole picture. One day, perhaps they shall, as the disciplines become integrated. I am not going to get into the rhetoric of your culture. I am relatively immune to such things. I am here to deliver a very specific line of information. What can you do on a spiritual level to increase physical longevity, to alleviate illness, to learn to help the body understand the pain signals so that the source of those pain signals can be identified and henceforth removed? Many of you believe that pain is bad just because it is unpleasant, but it serves a vital function. If you are in pain mentally, emotionally, or physically, these are very important things for you to pay attention to. Usually, since childhood, there have always been low levels of pain. And your culture simply teaches you to ignore these things and to be strong. Strong to the point, rather than being strong, you are denying very important signals that your consciousness has been trying to communicate to you for a lifetime. These signals, if ignored for a sufficient period of time, will transmute into illness. The body instinctively wants to avoid illness, but usually the concepts within your mind affect your perceptions. So that transient emotional states leave behind what you must call emotional garbage that is not assimilated. Any negative opinions about another human being, a type of person that gets your goat or pushes your button, indicates an area you need to resolve. Any emotional response other than a loving acquiescence and acceptance of the other and their higher source indicates there are still low-quality thought patterns within your construction. The secret to becoming the light being you already are and shining instead of putting out a putrid, tainted light is to rid yourself of negative opinions. What are negative opinions? Negative opinions are opinions that seek to demote self or others. They are justifications for an emotion. They have emotions such as irritation, anger, repulsion. Such things as these, if not handled, begin to multiply. The nature of all things within your universe in the building up phase is to multiply. So your ideas are constellations, little universes inside of the psychic mind, which also permeates the physical brain and body. These constellations seek to multiply, for that is their instinct. Yes, your thought constellations become entities unto themselves within your psychic bodies, and your thoughts build worlds. How many times has this been said by your enlightened ones? By your theoreticians, by your metaphysicians? Thoughts are things. They are things on a different level. A mental Mack truck that runs into your wall will not usually flatten the wall. If it does, it is one hell of a mental Mack truck. But still, on what you must call the psychological plane, not only within your mind, but in the dream world, the world you inhabit when you are sleeping, there are mental objects. These mental objects build up according to their intensity and concreteness in construction and have different lifespans of duration. Likewise, there are programs within your consciousness learned in youth, learned in your mother's womb. There are programs within your genetics that go back hundreds, I said, of thousands of generations of programs. What a waste that you cannot access this data, except in through spiritual disciplines which so few of you are willing to master. Now, I am not trying to impose a value system on you. A few of you will be able, on your own investigation, to unlock some of the symbols, the powers of your own deeper self to affect cellular biology and your physical duration in space and time so that you reach very advanced stages without my assistance. A few of you will do this subconsciously because longevity physically is just your program and you need no work. The vast majority of you, however, are programmed to terminate around the age of 75. So, a few of you may escape this by a few years, give or take 10 years. What is the difference? Well, it depends on you and your psychological makeup, if the difference is significant or not. Personal evaluation is involved here. You must dig deeply within yourselves and go still deeper and learn how to dig through the imprints that make up your very personality. If you are not capable of having a truly objective look at yourself, then you are not truly capable of having much effect upon that self. You must be able to step outside of the self and look at your opinions and feelings and emotions for what they are, and not make them into prettier things than they are. An old house that is falling apart, painted a sheer, bright, brilliant neon pink color, may look pretty from the outside, but the termites have still done their damage. The only way to make the house last longer without endangering occupants is to rebuild the house. Well, you must tear down your opinion complexes and build a new house. That means you may have to go to the very foundation that the house was built on. And what foundation was your spiritual house built on? The mental house of mind. The assumptions and values of your cultures. So you must understand where you intersect with social custom. It is not custom to live, all of you, averagely speaking, to 108 physical years of age according to your modern method of measuring age. If it were custom, I guarantee you would. The custom is that after you have produced children and the first or second set of grandchildren are born, you are disposable. Your sense of value is decreased. You begin to limit your physical movement. Your vision diminishes. Even the taste of a food changes. Your appetites leave you. You shut down the immune system and the endocrine system. You develop arthritis, arteriosclerosis, cancer, heart disease, and strokes. All of these are really rebellions against being labeled and thought of as a non-contributor to society. For the first step then for you is to understand what your culture attributes to age. Are the agedly wise? Do they have much knowledge and information to give the young? This should not be your only calling card, however. You are just as vital and valuable as an infant, and every bit as precious. But this has no meaning in your personal universe if you do not really meditate and digest what I am saying here. So it is very important for you to understand that the house of opinions, those you have control over and those that you may tell your friends, I have no control over how I feel, it's how I feel, I have no control, that is a negative suggestion in itself. The truth is, there is no domain of your personal universe you do not have influence, if not outright control over. But if you do not believe that 100%, then that means you have other beliefs that will counteract that belief, and so it will neutralize its effectiveness. So you must go through a period of decloaking yourself and pulling off the clothes of opinions that enfold your body and affect its physical functioning. The second technique is, after spending a few minutes of admitting your concepts about age, you then say, I now am prepared, after releasing these limited concepts that affect my reality in a limiting way, to absorb new concepts. And so you deliberately sit there and you make another concept up in your mind and imagination, and the more vivid you make it, the more powerful it is. The more emotional and moving it is, the more powerful it is. And so you essentially change a negative concept or string of concepts for one that is in harmony with what you wish to accomplish. I do not usually like to use terms like positive and negative, for the influence of these limited human concepts is indeed very limited, if not more limited than the concepts themselves in usefulness. Without getting too complicated then, you then take, for instance, a glass of very warm water and you brew up a tea that you enjoy. And you hold the tea on top of one palm or one hand. Not too hot to burn your physical body. Gentle, warm. And you hold the other hand over it and you imagine energy pouring into this liquid essence. And you repeat, say 10 times or so, the new concept that you wish the cells to absorb in your body. Then you sip and consume the liquid. Feel it going down and being absorbed into the body. If you hold now your hand over the cup of a liquid and rub your belly gently, or perhaps not quite touching it, perhaps you will just feel the heat of your hand and not physically touch your belly. Any direction you do this is fine. Just feel the warmth passing from your hand to your belly, and just imagine all of the cells in your body absorbing the instructions in the liquid. This technique is a derivative of the technique you use subconsciously every day to create your reality. You become more godlike when you assume and take responsibility for your creations. When you use your intentionality in a deliberate, ritualistic fashion to change the instructions that your cells have been given for millions and millions of years. Now, it's going to take you some time to achieve the results that you want to achieve. Why is this, you may say? You do not take millions of years of negative conditioning and remove them overnight, unless it is on very special circumstances. However, you can have more than just a little indent, just more than a little effect on your physical body and its aging by being persistent in the process. Time will tend to, every season or so, double the effectiveness of this one little meditative technique that I have given you. I have given hundreds of versions of this technique. The principles for this technique are all the same. Rather than involuntarily permeating the atoms and cells of your environment with negative suggestions, why not intentionally permeate them with more constructive suggestions that increase your physical duration physically in time, but also provide a wealth for you and happiness as well. All things are created from programs within you, and if you do not have extreme physical longevity and health, vitality and physical vigorousness, and emotional happiness and an overabundance of wealth in your life, then you need to look at your programs, for all of your personal reality is a result of programs. Now, whether or not you intentionally sat down and decided consciously that you will have a certain set of programs is relevant, but modestly so. More important are the programs you accepted from your culture before birth and upon birth that have a very powerful impact on you. They are the free radical pathology of your psychology. So you must understand the programming. You can count backwards from 100 to 1 and get very relaxed in a chair, and drink a special tea and say, I purify myself and purge myself of all the concepts involving aging, death, and dying that I inherited at birth. And you just keep saying that and sipping the liquid over and over, and this should be done once a week. It should be used in conjunction with the other technique that I have given you. The third technique is where you take an example of how long you want to live and visualize having the physical body that you wish to possess, and you run your dominant hand up and down the physical body like this while you visualize and repeat under your voice the results you wish to achieve as if they were already existing. You must use your own words. You will find it very helpful to periodically change the wording according to mood, weather conditions, and general state of physical health. Now, these are practical techniques that will allow you to directly, according to your own ability, affect your physical survival. To challenge the negative traditions embedded even in the field of medicine, which is supposed to be liberated among all of these cultural gook, but is not. You have the ability, yes, to live 300 years in very good health. However, many of you may want to dearly believe this, but wanting to believe something and believing it are two very different mental functions. You must get to the point where you know this. It is not just brainwashing the mind. It is also conditioning the emotional body and the mental body and the physical body to resonate in harmony. Persistence is the key to wearing down the body's resistance to new ideas that are millions of years old. Because death is a practice that has been practiced for so long, it is the custom and ritual of mammals and reptiles of your planet. The problem with this is it is not only within the human species, but within the plant and animal kingdom as well. There is an inverse correlation between longevity and the number of children born in any quarter century. You must be aware of this correlation. If you wish to have more and more healthy and happy and vigorous, long-lived individuals, eventually there will need to be, and there has been the need for this for some time in terms of quality of life, population control. Because spirit is eternal, opportunities are never lost or regretted when it comes to bringing a human infant into the world. The breeding pattern contains within it also a death instinct, in which those of a certain age will pick up subconsciously on the number of infants born and kind of relegate the remainder of their years, or size up how long they should stay, very much in proportion to the number of infants born. It is a type of self-sacrificial instinct to some extent. For in your children and grandchildren you live forever. But in truth, not only do you live forever that way, and also spiritually, but you also could endure in space and time in your own body without the need to make so many children and so many disastrous mistakes. This is an extremely serious issue that those who are truly enlightened are only now beginning to understand. You do not have children to try to keep a mate. You do not bring forth a child into the world simply because you're in the mood. Likewise, you do not abort the child because you are simply in the mood. If you really respected life, perhaps you would not be so disrespectful by irreverently producing offspring. You are not producing just offspring, but a whole evolution of mistakes, as well as potentials. That is not to say that the human offspring are not valuable. They are invaluable, and that is precisely why you must not carelessly breed. It is about being truly ecologically responsible on the psychic as well as the financial and sociological plane. The number of truly holistically balanced individuals in your world is so small they can be counted on a few human hands. Well, this is despicable, because the knowledge is all available for you even without education, if you simply search for it. This is not going to be a discussion of esoteric reality, the reality from which your reality comes. But you are all gods creating a mutual universe, and every god must do their part. As you disrobe yourself of negative programming and conditioning that affects cell function and increase your longevity, you are taking your responsibility seriously, ordaining and creating your own life. A whole change of mindset and clarification and the use of intentionality is essential. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so the armor of your personal empowerment must come from disengaging and letting go of disempowering concepts built within your consciousness. A highly unusually high number of psychological characteristics are passed down, as well as physical appearance, from parent to child. In a sense, your descendants do pay for your sins. In a sense that is all too real. I am not trying to play a guilt trip. However, if you enjoy such things, more power to you. Rather, to state a reality that is simply and frankly unavoidable. If you are not a confident, self-confident, truly happy person, do not bring more misery into the world until you are. Then at least you will have something to counterbalance the misery with. Because your misery patterns are literally ingrained within the cells of your offspring. It is not only the environment that the child is exposed to from birth on, or simply the prenatal environment. It is a programming that is the hundreds of thousands of generations old, and we are not exaggerating. But you want to get beyond such things and take responsibility for your life now. You do that by not randomly producing just because you were in the mood. You do that by taking responsibility for what you say that affects the life of others. You do that by learning to be truly objective and not take the side of any philosophy or preachy propaganda, whether or not it is validated by your medical, psychiatric, or social or religious elite in any area of your society. You truly take responsibility for owning, creating, and maintaining who you are, what you identify yourself as. Your current definitions of being human are so limited, they are almost useless. You must expand your definition of the potentials of what being human is all about. But you must also intersperse that with times of just being without trying to pre-program everything. The balance between spontaneity and structure here is to be strived for. So you impregnate your food and your nutritional substances, your supplements, with new programs. Understand, every time you hold a pill or a vitamin or a medication in your hand and you charge it with the same intent, that after some few hundred repetitions in charging these things, it will begin to have a profound effect on your body. I know humans who have lived who could perform surgery on others' bodies that they never met. That to you humans seems like a pretty far-out idea, doesn't it? I know humans that can move physical objects in another part of the world, where their body sits in a trance. I know humans that can cause physical things to burst into flames just by increasing the vibrational rate of the physical object, using the abilities of their mind. However, I do not give techniques on these things for various reasons. One is the all-powerful human tendency to abuse knowledge. Without wisdom, knowledge is profane. Wisdom is the knowledge on how to correctly use, apply, and make a difference with inferior knowledge. Wisdom is the greater, grander knowledge. So you must find out what you really believe. What you profess to believe and what you really believe on all levels are rarely congruent. If you want to be powerful magicians in your life, your beliefs must be as one. They must be coherent. They must be strong. They must be firm. They must be known to the point where they are no longer beliefs but transforming agents that awaken the God within you. However, you do not need to become a God first, which you are potentially, to dramatically increase your physical lifespan. Few of you will reach physical eternity at this period in time. However, many of you will dramatically extend your physical lifespan to the point beyond the reaches of your imagination. This knowledge is available now for those who wish to truly search dedicatedly. But it must be a sub-manic obsession. at this period in your development if you wish to truly conquer the psychological time barrier. You must be completely dedicated to this without being overtly extreme. I am not suggesting that you take a trip to India to consult with the great masters there. Though if you wish to, and it is a portion of your personality makeup to do such things, more power to you. Instead, you make quiet changes by looking at your thoughts, by weeding yourself of limiting opinions. Understand this, there is the power of karmic equivalation within the racial mind. As you limit others, so shall you limit yourself. So it does little good to only improve yourself and look great on the outside if you have negative opinions and attitudes about those you love or those of another race or another sex. It is very important to eliminate all attitudes from your repertoire that limit yourself and others if you truly wish to have a rather immeasurable psychic potency transforming power in your life. The human species is only just now coming to respect ecology. For too long, human males and females are wrapped up within their own little individual instinctual urges and only recently learned to think about the community. And even that is a relatively new phenomena for many races of human beings, though some started several 100,000 years before others to develop this characteristic. I will not give which races they are due to prejudice in your world today. None of you are better inherently than the other. However, you all have God potentials, and if you were focused on living those potentials, you would have less time to complain and bicker about your neighbors and relatives and government. If you were contributing and making a difference, you would not be complaining. You would be writing letters of concrete observations that would make a difference. Then you would not spend your time berating your president and how the economy is running. You are the creator of that economy. You are also the creator of your psychic economy. You must live in both arenas of life if you wish to make a complete difference, not just do 50% of the work. You must go all the way if you want a real difference. So the difference we are discussing primarily in a rather indirect version at this time is a dramatic increase in your physical lifespan. But what good does it do you if you live another 200 years to not become a more wiser being? It does no good for me either. If you wish to randomly live another 200 years and not do any good for yourself or others, you will have less than your fair share of cosmological forces assisting you. If you develop aspects of your consciousness that are racially valuable and cosmologically valuable, then you are empowered beyond that which you give. You receive back more than you contribute to your world. This continues to multiply, increase in frequency with time. So you must develop truly deep-level psychological changes. If you believe you cannot change, then you are handicapped. Your own ideas will limit your expansion, growth, and development. If you are changing to please others, you are changing for the wrong reason. Eventually, those others will not be there to be the continual fuel to help you change. Instead, you must change to become your own powerful being, to assist as many human beings as you can, and to not break karmic law. Now, even these laws, however, are not stationary. When you reach certain levels of psychological development, these laws no longer encumber you. Now, if you simply give yourself the continuous suggestion that the cells of my body have the ability to replicate themselves perfectly without RNA and DNA destruction, and you truly can come to believe this, then Your medical physician could take a physical biopsy and would notice there would be no molecular damage to the magnetic resonances which are creating your RNA and DNA replications. It is very easy to do. At first the results are general, but given time, say a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of doing this, the results can become very specific. To the point where you could say one side of my face will age as it would have and the other side will not. And literally, the side that you have decided will not age, that is experience biological destruction. That is what the process of aging is physically. That side will be much younger than the other side. As it is, even without conscious interference of these genetic programs, various levels of your body are aging at very different rates already. Just the way things are. The easiest way to access all parts of your body, however, is to program your food with context that you want your cells to learn. Your cells subconsciously know what you are affirming, but you bring this subconscious knowledge to the surface where it can make a difference, so it is just not a medicine stored away in a warehouse that is never used and long forgotten. Now I can of course go on and on about the subject, but there are practical limitations. One is the fact that my psychic is in training and has certain physiological needs that should be taken into consideration. We have a lot of work to do in helping to transform many of the energies of your social world. There are certain values of life we wish to help your life forms and other life forms as well attain. With these, I would like to end this immediate communication. You will need to watch and re-watch this mechanically reproduced tape many times to get the full value out of it. It is worth more than your weight in gold. Your eternity just could be wrapped up within it. Some of the concepts are not new, but they may be foreign, they may be new to you. If you are not using them to make a difference in your own private way now, then it does not matter whether they are familiar or not, because they will not make a difference in your life. You must commit to creating a personal, ritualized method of changing the negative instructions programmed into your genetics if you wish to achieve a genuine extended lifespan beyond the usual 130 or so years, which is no big deal. Perhaps to you it is. I wish you all of the love that the universe has to offer. I also wish you progress and satisfaction. And I wish you an enlarged awareness so that you may make a difference in your life. If you are making a difference in your life, you are making a difference in the world. Good day.
Broadcast Network. Tune in to the mystic broadcast of oneness emanating from every point in the universe.